Hey, welcome back. So someone in the comments said they wanted to see some of my commander decks. I think they were a little bit newer to Magic and just wanted to kind of see a breakdown of a deck and maybe get some help with kind of building their own deck. I picked one that I actually recently updated with some Final Fantasy cards, so I thought that might be kind of cool to show off because there's some cards that came out in the Final Fantasy set that really synergize with this deck. So let's kind of dig in here. I do have to probably split this into two parts because I tried to record this previously and it was a 17-minute video and YouTube didn't like that and it wouldn't upload, which is why I haven't had a video for a couple of days. So the commander is Animar, Soul of Elements. He has protection from white and black. Whenever you cast a creature spell, you put a +1/+1 counter on him, and then for every +1/+1 counter, other creature spells cost one less to cast. So it's a pretty cool effect. And what's funny is this deck started off with Riku 2 Reflections as the commander, and I had a bunch of doubling spells in the deck, and I ended up kind of liking this effect so much that I took a lot of the doubling stuff out and took Riku out even, and ended up kind of refactoring the deck to have Animar as the main commander. So I guess to start with, let's just kind of look at how we get counters onto Animar. So there's basically a series of enchantments, instant and sorcery spells, and then creatures that kind of assist with that process. So we've got Scale of Heights, which allows you to put a counter and draw a card. We've got Inscription of Abundance, which allows you to put 2 counters for 2 mana, which is amazing. We've got Invigorating Surge, where you put a counter and then double the number of counters. Visions of Dominance, same thing. Put a counter, double the number of counters, but it has flashback. You have this Snakeskin Veil that allows you to put a counter and then also gives that creature hexproof until end of turn. So that's a good way to kind of put a counter on Animar and also save him from removal. Yuna's Whistle from Final Fantasy. This is kind of cool. You can pull a card off the top of your library until you hit one that has a casting cost. I'm sorry, you hit a creature and then you use the casting cost to put that many +1/+1 counters on. So that's very cool. And then this is probably my favorite, Solidarity of Heroes, which allows you to put double the number of counters on any number of creatures as long as you pay the cost for each of the creatures. So that's really sick, especially because it's only 2 to cast. So then we have some enchantments. And remember, like every counter that goes on him, all your creature spells cost 1 less colorless to cast. So you start doubling stuff really quickly, adding counters and doubling. Plus, every time a creature comes into play, you're putting a +1/+1 counter on him. He gets, really big and things get free basically over time. So Forced Adaptation, it's a 1-drop, and every upkeep you put a counter on him. Exploration, you play an additional land each turn. Hydra's Growth, this is my favorite of all the enchantments. So when it comes into the battlefield, you put +1/+1 counter on target creature, but then you double the counters every upkeep, which is sick. So usually this gets removed pretty quickly. The Earth Crystal from Final Fantasy. Green spells you cast cost less, 1 less to play. Sorry, it's late and I'm tired. If 1 or more counters will be put on a creature, double it. So another doubling spell. Sphere Grid. Creatures you control with counters have Reach and Trample. This is amazing for 2 mana. And then whenever a creature that has a counter on it deals damage to a player, you put another counter on that creature, which is amazing. This is another enchantment that doubles counters as you put them in. So that's pretty sick. Then we've got a series of creatures that assist with this process. So we've got Varel, who doubles counters for a green and a blue. We've got Riku that allows whenever you have moved a counter or put a counter on that turn, that creature becomes unblockable, and it has an ability where you can steal a counter from somebody else, from an opponent, to basically make that creature unblockable that turn. This is a creature that doubles counters with a green and a blue, and it puts counters every upkeep, which is amazing. This is just a 2-drop that adds a counter and gives trample to creatures with counters. Bristly Bill is incredible. He's also one that puts counters for landfall trigger, rather. Saz from Final Fantasy, same thing. Whenever he attacks, you can double the counters and add a counter. Ouroboros from Edge of Eternities is one of my favorite cards in Edge of Eternities, and I did not pull it. I had to buy the single, which I'm kind of bummed about, considering I bought like 2 collector boxes and a play box. So, no, maybe 3 collector boxes actually. Still didn't pull it. Anyway, at the beginning of combat, you put X +1/+1 counters on each creature you control. where X is this creature's power. So as this gets bigger, every single one of your creature gets +1/+1 counters equal to the power of Ouroboros. So that's amazing. Deep Glow Skate doubles your counters. Again, remember with Animar, if he's got counters on him, I'm only dropping this for 1 blue, and then doubling counters. Scrounging Bandar. This is actually a really cool card because of the fact that it basically has a double trigger. So when he comes into the battlefield, he has 2 counters. So something like Branching Evolution would basically be 4 counters. And then at the beginning of your upkeep, you can move any number of counters. And if you had something like Branching Evolution out or something that doubles counters, it would be even double that. So this is a really cool card for 2. Kurion Beastcaller. Every time you play a creature spell, you put a counter on her, and then if she dies, you can move those counters onto another creature. So those will usually go to Animar. This is another one that adds when it comes in, Animar is going to get a counter for it coming in, plus it puts a counter on a creature, so it's an automatic 2. Again, when that gets into like multiple cards doubling out there, it gets, for 2 mana, you're sometimes putting 4 to 6 counters on a creature. Another creature that when it comes in, doubles counters. I mean, you're starting to see a pattern here, I'm sure. Whenever you play a spell, whenever any player plays a spell, you put a +1/+1 counter on him, and then at the beginning of your upkeep, you can move any number of counters off of him onto another creature. So this is a cool way to get Animar pumped up. This one does the same thing as Ouroboros, essentially, where you put the number of +1/+1 counters equal to his power onto another target creature. This is another one that for every land, you get a counter, and then if you play multiple lands, you get to double those counters. And Vorinclex basically is a creature that doubles all counters for you and reduces the number of counters for your opponents by half. So, all right, with the 7-minute mark, I'm going to try to go to 10 minutes. I guess just quickly, we got counter spells because it's blue. I'm sorry, this isn't counter spells. This is card draw. So one of the things this deck really suffered from was it just didn't have enough card draw. So I've got Rhystic Study. This card, at the beginning of your upkeep, if you've got a creature that's bigger than 4, you can draw a card. This allows you to bring, and again, she's 7 to cast, seems really big, but with Animar, a couple turns in, you'll have enough counters to cast her for a blue and a green. She allows you to draw cards for every creature in play. So, and takes away your maximum hand size. Starwinders from Edge of Eternities, and every time you deal combat damage to a player, you can draw that many cards for the amount of damage. Terra Symbiosis, this is my favorite card in Edge of Eternities. Whenever you put a +1/+1 counter on a creature, you draw that many cards, and that's amazing considering the number of counters that you're probably going to be putting on Animar. And then Concentrated Sphinx, every time your opponent draws a card, you draw 2 cards, which is amazing. So that's the card draw kind of solved for. And then we've got some counter spells here, being in blue. You got Disallow, Counterspell, Pact of Negation, Mana Drain, Force of Negation, and Force of Will. Let's actually stop the video there, and I will do a part 2, and we'll talk about some of the remaining cards and then the mana base, because that's a big part of having a 3-color deck. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you on part 2.